Tonight on VCU InSight.
That we really need to rethink our entire approach to drugs and specifically to end the drug war.
The Libertarian candidate for governor, Robert Sarvis, is in the studio with us.
Washington, D.C.'s Olympic bid includes the city of Richmond.
And a protest for diversity sparks change at a Richmond school.
This is VCU InSight.
And it starts right now.
Welcome to VCU InSight. I'm Natasha Haskamp.
And I'm Kyrie Stewart. Thanks for joining us. The gubernatorial election takes place November 5th. And up for election are Democrat Terry McAuliffe, Republican Ken Cuccinelli, and Libertarian Robert Sarvis, who is in studio to chat with InSight's Emily Satchel.
I'm here with Robert Sarvis, the Libertarian candidate for governor of Virginia. Mr. Sarvis, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
First, let's begin with some of the challenges you face as a third-party candidate in this election. What are some of the things you're up against?
Well, the first is just name recognition and awareness that I'm actually even on the ballot and that I'm running. And so that's the biggest hurdle, is first to get people to know that they have a third option. And in this election, it's been a little bit easier just because people are looking for a third option. The two major party candidates are kind of exemplify exactly what's wrong with their respective parties. And so 40% of Virginians wanted another candidate from the very beginning.
Okay, so very recently a debate was held with those two candidates, Terry McAuliffe and Ken Cuccinelli. Mm-hmm. How did you feel being excluded from that, and what are you doing to combat being excluded from events like that?
Well, we've been included in a lot of other events, not the debates, but candidate forums. We've gotten invitations from to a lot of those, and we've participated and gotten a very good reaction. The debates have not been as inclusive so far, but we're confident we can get into the last one if we keep our numbers going up. So it's a little disappointing to see that. I think that the debate hosts are doing a disservice to the Virginia voters. And once people know that I'm on the ballot and they listen to what I have to say, it's a fairly easy sell.
So another thing, a lot of students downplay the gubernatorial election compared to the presidential election, but the governor often has more say in our education than the president does. So what are your plans for higher education?
Well, one of the difficult one of the difficult positions we put young people in is that they come out of college often with huge amounts of debt, and then they start a job. If they can get a job in this economy, they start a job and we take a huge portion of their income to pay for the retirement of the elderly. And it makes it really hard to save money and save for their own retirement. And so it's something that we have to tackle. And my view of it is that we can't keep pushing subsidies into the system that we have, because what happens is that the colleges just increase their tuition, capture those subsidies, and the students don't benefit from affordable education. So what we have to do is, if we're going to have some sort of subsidies, we should give it directly to students where they don't have to use it in these higher education institutions of the 20th century. We should be building an open and competitive marketplace in higher education where we have innovation and new kinds of services that are focused on the jobs of the future. And so that's going to look very different from what college looks like today. And you see with massively open online courses and the possibility of educating people for very cheaply. We don't know what it's going to look like in 10, 15, 20 years, but we have to move towards a system that's much more flexible and focused on the economy of the future. Right.
So mentioning the economy, the unemployment rate in Virginia recently, actually in August, moved up to 5.8%. What are your plans for combating the rising unemployment in the state?
Well, it's a real problem, and that understates the unemployment problems in various parts of the state, because we have certain areas that are dependent on government employment that have very low levels of unemployment, and we have other areas of the state that have very high double-digit unemployment. And one of the things we have to do is we have to have a more open and competitive marketplace that can move people from declining industries toward rising industries. And what we have to do is get government out of the business of subsidizing and trying to pick what the industries of the future are going to be. innovation has a way of sneaking up on us and doing things that we couldn't have guessed beforehand. And so we have to make sure that our people are well educated, that they're educated in a way that is flexible so that they can move from job to job and industry to industry. And so, when you have the government trying to subsidize specific types of education or specific industries, it really undermines the ability of the economy to move people from one industry to another.
Okay, and one more question. As a lot of our viewers are college-age students, so they are particularly interested in your stance on the legalization of marijuana. What is your stance on that platform?
My stance is that we really need to rethink our entire approach to drugs, and specifically to end the drug war, because the criminalization and prohibition of drugs leads to a lot of social ills. One of those is violent crime and gun crime. Another of those is the massive incarceration and the costs of enforcement, the loss of economic productivity when we criminalize people and render them unemployable, and the loss of civil liberties. So, one of the problems that with the war on terror is undermining civil liberties, but it's really just an extension of the loss of civil liberties under the war on drugs. So there are a lot of these issues that get touched upon, and if we want to stop ruining people's lives and livelihoods and restore families and communities, the best thing we can do is to legalize marijuana, not railroad people in the criminal justice system.
Okay. Well, I've been speaking with the Libertarian candidate for Governor of Virginia, Mr. Robert Sarvis. Thanks so much for giving us some of your time today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
We've also invited Democratic candidate Terry McAuliffe and Republican candidate Ken Cuccinelli to appear on InSight. We have not yet heard back from their campaigns.
The last chance to register to vote for the election is October 15th. The third and final debate with the candidates will be at Virginia Tech October 24th. Students at VCU have a variety of ways to get informed. The Student Government Association has teamed up with Virginia 21 to provide students with TurboVote, a way for students to register to vote online. On October 7th at 7 p.m., student-run political groups will face off in a mock debate in the Commons Theater hosted by the VCU chapter of Society of Professional Journalists.
VCU announced it's set to continue its expansion with the addition of more dorms specifically for upperclassmen. The new dorms are part of VCU's effort to improve student retention and graduation rates. Like the new West Grace North and West Grace South dorms, the new halls will be learning centers, with one focusing on leadership and the other focusing on innovation and entrepreneurship. They will be located in the parking lot of the Academic Center on the corners of Ryland and Broad Street and Grace and Harrison Street. The construction will begin in March, and both halls are set to be completed in the summer of 2015.
That's not all. VCU has also announced Cabell Library will undergo an estimated $50 million renovation. More than 90% of the new library will be dedicated to space for students and faculty. The expansion will feature an increase in group study areas, more presentation practice rooms, more tables and seating, and an expanded Starbucks cafe. VCU hopes to start construction in March 2014 and open in September of the following year.
VCU Medical Center is home to the only Level 1 trauma center in Central Virginia, and the new Advanced Trauma Resuscitation Area marks the first phase of a $40 million renovation at MCV's emergency department. InSight's Joel Rhodes reports.
Paramedics, firemen, and medical technicians see emergency situations firsthand. After 8 months of construction, they got their first look at the new Advanced Trauma Resuscitation Room. MCV hosted an open house for these first responders. Measuring up to 4,000 square feet, it's about the same size as VCU's basketball court. Staff members at MCV's emergency department say that having more space will allow them to treat more patients.
The Advanced Trauma Resuscitation Room is 4 times larger than the former space and is designed to handle mass trauma events such as natural disasters and terrorist attacks.
Chair of Emergency Medicine Dr. Joseph Ornato says that they can manage more patients with the new room.
It's multiples of the size of the area, which gives us an amazing capability in terms of expanding the number of patients who are critically ill or critically injured that we can take care of at one time.
The room's flexible design is quadruple the size of the original. and can accommodate up to 9 patients and 4 critical medical emergencies at the same time. Trauma Program Manager Beth Broering is looking forward to the opening of the new trauma room.
I'm just so excited to be able to work with such an amazing team of physicians and nurses, and we have an amazing team here at VCU Medical Center.
The new trauma room will open in October, allowing the emergency team to save more lives. For VCU InSight, I'm Joel Rhodes.
The new Advanced Trauma Resuscitation Room opened October 1st. The final renovations at MCV's emergency department will include new treatment areas for medical and behavioral health emergencies. Both are expected to be completed by July 2014.
In late September, 300 VCU students were exposed to tuberculosis. One student who had it attended 4 classes and showed symptoms of TB. As of now, there is only 1 active case. Symptoms of active TB include night sweats, weight loss, and a cough lasting more than 3 weeks. If you show any of these symptoms, please contact VCU Student Health at 828-8828. VCU has undergone many changes within the last few years. Among those changes are the new dining options provided for students. InSight's Paula Chavez shares VCU's latest launch.
VCU students are used to seeing fast food on campus. One cartoonist in the campus newspaper connected it to the dreaded freshman 15, the weight often gained when starting college. Studies show that freshman and sophomore year are when students are more at risk for putting on weight. This fall, VCU Dining has launched a new Healthy for Life program. Manager of VCU Dining Sales and Services, Tamara Highsmith, says they hope to inform students on how they can make healthier decisions.
There's a lot of customization that students can make. Omelets can be made with a choice of eggs or egg whites or egg beaters.
Schaefer Court Dining Center is where students can expect to find food items labeled with nutritional information and a new focus on local food. VCU senior Rana Gainer has noticed some changes since her freshman year, but still questions how healthy these foods may be.
Having the calorie counters on little placards in front of all the counters is a very good idea, I believe, but I still think it's kind of hard to find genuinely healthy foods to eat.
Highsmith says Gainer's concerns are the goals of this new program.
We're doing more of a focus on local foods, just bringing in different healthy aspects to the program and making students aware of those so they can make choices for themselves.
To educate students on how they can eat healthier, the initiative offers information found in these brochures on serving sizes and portion control. The sugar-filled foods being served is something Gainer believes should change, a request that can be shared with VCU Dining Services through Your Voice count cards.
And on those cards is a QR code. The students can use their smartphones and that will take them directly to the feedback.
VCU Dining Services plans to measure the success of the program based on the adoption of the healthier food choices by students. For VCU InSight, I'm Paula Chavez.
For smartphone users, you can now download the Campus Dish mobile app and search the daily menu on campus by venue, calories, and nutritional information.
The Greater Washington Sports Alliance announced its campaign for the Olympics under the name DC 2024. But what got most people's attention here was the inclusion of Richmond in that effort. InSight's Philip Marcello has the story on why the River City is an important piece for the bid.
The Coliseum, sports backers, Browns Island. If you live in Richmond, you've probably been to these places. But one day, these venues may be home to something bigger, Olympic athletes.
The facilities will be perfect for training before the Olympics.
While none of the actual Olympic events would be held in the city of Richmond, venues just like the Coliseum here would be used as training centers for countries and athletes that are visiting and staying in the area.
Jack Berry, who heads up Richmond Region Tourism, believes hotels and businesses here are a major draw.
So what happens is then for 2024 with the Olympic bid, they need 100,000 hotel rooms. So the impact will be overflowing to Richmond, to Maryland, Northern Virginia.
The attraction between DC 2024 and Richmond is mutual. Sportsbackers Executive Director John Lugbill says Richmond would benefit immensely if the games were to come to DC.
Well, an event like the Olympics is transformational in that people start to see themselves as an Olympic city, a city that's international in scope and scale, and that sees themselves as a player in the world community.
A community Richmond is now one step closer to being in. For VCU InSight, I'm Philip Marcello.
Barry believes that if DC were to be awarded the Olympics, it would create momentum for Richmond to upgrade existing facilities like the Coliseum. The 2024 Olympic site will be announced in 2017.
It's official. The Richmond Coliseum will host the Atlantic 10 Women's Basketball Tournament. The Coliseum will host the tournament for the next 3 seasons. The 13-team league features VCU and the University of Richmond. The winner receives an automatic invite to the NCAA tournament. This just comes 6 months after the Coliseum lost the Colonial Athletic Association men's tournament to Baltimore.
MAD, or Mothers Against Drunk Driving, is using VCU as their pilot school to bring awareness to its newest campaign. The campaign is called Tie One On for Safety, also known as the Red Ribbon Campaign, which encourages people to pledge to drive safe, sober, and buckled up. Students are encouraged to use social media like Facebook and Twitter to spread the word.
Changes have been made at a Richmond high school after racial tension exploded in the spring. Some Latino students protested at Huguenot High because they believed they were being treated unfairly because of their cultural background. InSight's Sierra Jarrett reports.
This was the scene outside Huguenot High School back in June, after a group of Latino students organized a protest against school officials. Their complaints came after a staff member allegedly referred to some of the students as, quote, Mexicans. The complaints then multiplied, from not having a translator on staff to not having any representation of their culture in school. But not all Latinos agreed. Kimberly Hernandez did not take part in the protest.
Well, honestly, I do not think it was necessary. It wasn't that big of a deal to make a protest about a small word like all Mexicans or Hispanic.
But school officials listened to the complaints and took action.
Students returned this semester to see new posters, a new translator, and flags like this one hanging around the school. All of these changes are due to the creation of the Multicultural Task Force.
The purpose of the Multicultural Task Force is to promote student achievement, to make sure that we are working with our diverse English language learners, as well as working with their families.
It's not just for Latinos. The school is working to recognize all nationalities within its halls.
One of the things that our superintendent is looking into, Dr. Lewis, is having an automated system here at school where when our families can come in, they can call into a service that can provide translation services in many different languages, not just Spanish.
Baraka says so far the school year is off to a good start, but the task force remains at work to deal with issues as they arise. For VCU InSight, I'm Sierra Jarrett.
The Multicultural Task Force will meet with the school board at the end of this month to recommend more ideas to ensure that all minorities are comfortable within the Richmond public school system. In the competitive world of fashion, not all designers are given the opportunity to show off their work. VCU alumni Angela Butchkowski is in the studio with InSight's Nana Bonsu.
I'm here with Angela Butchkowski from reality television series Project Runway Season 12. Angela, thanks for being here.
Hi.
Okay, so tell me, where did it all start? I know while you were at VCU, you graduated in 2009, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you studied abroad in London.
I did. The year before, in 2007, 2008, I studied abroad for a year at Central St. Martin's, and I did.
And that is a fashion school?
It is. It's an art school, and I specifically did fashion design, and I did menswear when I was there. And I also, while there, I worked really hard. I worked for a London tailor, and I interned at Alexander McQueen and Felder. So I was working nonstop.
So how was that? Did VCU help you get that intern with McQueen, or
No. I mean, I totally pursued it independently. I mean, they basically VCU held my place here as a student, but I independently said I want to go to this school because it's one of the top schools for fashion design. So I sought them out.
Okay. All right, so then you came back and then you graduated. So when did it all peak? When did you feel like, okay, I'm at my next step?
I mean, when I first graduated, I had a real lull, like I think a lot of people do. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I worked various fashion retail jobs where I really learned, I guess, the other more business side of it. And I don't know if there was a peak. It probably just hit me one day that I can't really work for anybody else, and I want to start my own line. And I came up with this grand concept to do a very conceptual, art-based fashion collection and work with a lot of other VCU artists, and I did. And then I just keep going from there.
So your first line was Nest, correct?
Yes.
And that was a fall line?
Yeah, it was for fall 2012, and I showed it here in Richmond, and like I said, worked with a lot of other VCU arts alumni, and we all came together to make this multimedia sculptural presentation that was also a fashion show.
Fashion show. Okay, so after Nest, then you had Ghost. Right after Ghost, because Ghost was your spring collection for 2013.
Yes.
And then it was Project Runway. Tell me how that went about. Did you apply for it? Were you recommended?
I did a Kickstarter campaign for Ghost as well as for Nest. It's a crowd fundraising campaign where you try to raise money and you put it online, and actually casting directors from Lifetime, from Project Runway, contacted me after seeing that.
And how was that? Was it a surprise? Did you just wake up one morning and you had an email?
Yeah, basically, and I tried to turn them down. I said, no, I'm way too busy, I have my own line, and they insisted, and I'm a sucker for flattery, and so I went for it. And that took like the next 6 months of my life, basically.
Project Runway?
Yeah.
Okay, we actually have some video of you from Project Runway, so please tell me about that experience. What did you take away from Project Runway, season 12?
I learned that maybe I'm a lot more private than I thought I was, and I wasn't maybe ready for reality television. And I learned some humility.
Did you have any close relationships with any of the cast? Did you still keep in contact with some of them?
Definitely. I mean, I just saw them all a few days ago because we did the reunion show in LA.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, a couple of them I feel really close to. It's a really nice network of artists now that we've made for ourselves. So that's the best thing I'd say about Project Runway, is that you make so many friends that are doing exactly what you're doing, and you can help each other. So it's really a good network.
Okay, and let's just quickly talk about what do you have coming up? I know you have your new line coming out, Martyr. That's for
spring 2014. So it just showed, and then I'll try to basically start taking orders for it now so that it'll hit stores in spring.
Okay. I've been speaking with Angela Bachkowski. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks.
You're welcome. But yeah,
The historic Byrd Theater's air conditioner has been out since May. Now the theater is raising money to replace the unit. InSight's Paisley Winkler has more.
Operating since 1928, the Byrd Theater in Carytown has been a staple for Richmonders, including the Millers, who attend monthly.
Well, but it's a great tradition and we love it.
It's a piece of history that Richmond is real unique.
They haven't noticed the broken AC because the theater is using a rental unit. But before taking tickets and popping popcorn, it has to have permanent air conditioning.
It's absolutely essential to operating. Even in the early days, movie theaters were some of the first commercial buildings to be regularly air conditioned in this country.
This 47-year-old air conditioner has been broken since May. Though lasting longer than expected, they are using a rental, and the theater is paying $6,000 a month.
Placed permanently on the roof will be the new AC unit. It'll cost the theater $100,000.
To pay for this, nonprofit organization Byrd Foundation is holding its first online campaign. Using the website Indiegogo.com and the slogan, "Keep the Bird Humming."
For a lot of our patrons, they're not people that are in a position to give, $1,000, $5,000. So this was really a way to reach out to our patrons.
By reaching out, they're hoping moviegoers realize that any dollar donation helps in keeping the Byrd maintained. For VCU InSight, I'm Paisley Winkler.
Unfortunately, the Byrd Theater didn't reach the $100,000 goal by October 5th. However, you can still make contributions through Indiegogo.com.
A new convention appealing specifically to the gamers and anime fans has popped up in Richmond. RVA Con took place September 27th through the 29th at the Canal Club downtown. The convention is the first for the Richmond community. The convention featured panels for gamers, a costume contest for cosplayers, anime movie screenings, live DJs, and video game challenges.
Well, when getting a pet, you typically look for a kitten or a puppy. But the Richmond SPCA is pairing up senior citizens with older pets in the Seniors for Seniors adoption program. InSight's Rebecca Hasmith has the story.
84-year-old Mary Hastings enjoys her sunny days outside gardening. 2 years ago, Hastings lost her companion, Frances. She didn't think she would get another dog until she heard of the Seniors for Seniors adoption program.
Well, I've always, read articles about the SPCA, I knew they were a no-kill shelter and they had a lot of, dogs.
Last month, Hastings adopted a 9-year-old beagle named Lucille. Lucy, for short, was Hastings' 10th beagle. The program began about 8 years ago, and since then, the Richmond SPCA has paired up dozens of senior citizens with senior pets. When you adopt an older pet, you get a calmer, more mature animal like this one. Tabitha Haynes is the Director of Advancement for the Richmond SPCA. According to Haynes and the SPCA's research, owning a dog has had a significant effect on one's health.
Some of them are just as simple as stress reduction by the simple act of petting a cat and having a purring cat in your lap.
Beagles are known to have an appetite, and when Hastings adopted Lucy, she was extremely overweight.
And I'm trying to put her out a lot to get exercise.
Thanks to the Seniors for Seniors program, Hastings has another companion to spend her days with. For VCU InSight, I'm Rebecca Hasmith.
To be eligible for the program, you must be 60 years of age or over, and the pet must be at least 5 years old. Senior adopters are encouraged to contact the SPCA Adoption Center at 804-521-1307 for more information. And Natasha, I really hope a lot of seniors really take advantage of this.
I think it's a wonderful opportunity. And that's it for the edition of VCU InSight. Make sure to check us out online at insight.vcu.edu.
You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook under VCU InSight. Thanks for watching. I'm Kyrie Stewart.
And I'm Natasha Haskamp. We'll see you next time.